if you've been feeling stuck or like things are not really moving forward for you, maybe you've been working really hard on something at work or a project or what have you, and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere, I have good news for you. Jupiter just went direct. He went direct just a few days ago on the 10th, and he will be stationary on 15 degrees of Cancer for the entirety of March. Now, this is ultimately going to lead to a lot of opportunity for many of us. Many of us will start to see things actually start to resolve and move forward in some type of way. And I'm going to get into how you can best utilize this energy yourself, though. So, first of all, it's on 15 degrees of Cancer, as I said. It's great that it's in Cancer. This is one of Jupiter's favorite signs to be in, first of all. But at 15 degrees of Cancer is also, or right near it, is a fixed star called Sirius. Now, Sirius is one of the most major stars throughout ancient history because it's the brightest star in the night sky. So it is associated with high honors and unexpected success and things like that. In ancient Egypt, this star rose when at the time that the Nile was going to flood. So ancient Egyptians associated this with a positive time because it was going to bring a lot of abundance to their agriculture. The name Sirius actually comes from an ancient Greek word that means the hottest or the brightest, scorching hot. And that's because it rose at the time of the year, which was going to be the hottest. So Sirius is ultimately positive, although it can be a little bit of a double-edged sword. Obviously, things can get too hot, but it does feature often in people that are very successful, like Elon Musk has Sirius prominently featured in his chart, for example. The double-edged sword side of it that I would say is just that it can bring a lot of attention to something, which can kind of take away from the peace or privacy of something. But overall, it is considered to be generally a really positive placement for Jupiter to be in conjunction with. Now, I also noticed that it's near another fixed star called Pollux. Pollux is a reference to the Gemini constellation, actually, and Pollux is one of the twins, Pollux and Castor. So the myth between Pollux and Castor is that there are these two twins. They featured really heavily in like Jason and the Argonauts. They were very skilled sailors and very successful in general. Pollux especially was known for like his strategy as well, and his penetrating mind. He was also known for like boxing or like fighting something out or like fighting for something. And in fact, in the myth, it's Castor that actually dies in the myth, and Pollux is offered by the gods the option to either have full immortality himself or share immortality with his brother in order to be with him again. And he actually chooses that. He chooses to be with his brother. And so this constellation is often associated with like brotherly love and dedication and things like that. But I do think that the strategy aspect of this is really interesting because when we look at the trines that Jupiter makes while he's there, in Cancer, there's a lot of planets that are currently going through Pisces. So he hits a trine with all of those. And one of those is an asteroid called Pallas Athene, which is one of my favorite asteroids of all time. Pallas Athene is a reference to Athena, especially in her form as a war strategist. So this asteroid also is really about strategy. Now, being that so much water signs are here, and this is also how, and Pallas Athene itself is in Pisces, I would say that taking an almost like visionary strategy approach would be even more beneficial with this current transit. So I'll get into that as I go, but I do think that there's an aspect to this where we can really focus on how do we strategize to achieve what our dreams are. In fact, it's also trining Mercury, and Mercury is currently retrograde. It's going to trine it again when Mercury goes direct. Mercury goes direct on the 20th, but it'll be in its exact trine again on the 2nd of April. So Mercury retrograde here is really interesting because this is saying, right, like it's time for you to correct something. It's time for you to review, replan, maybe go back to the way you started something. So like, for example, let's say that you've been working on a project for quite some time, for months, and it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere, and maybe you're like starting to think like maybe it's not going to go anywhere. This is saying that it might be time to go back to basics or go back to how you started the project or where it really came from, or just taking that moment to pause and kind of think like, what is my vision for this? Because again, this is Pisces. This is all about what we are visualizing, okay? What we are dreaming about. So you really want to ask yourself like, what is my real goal? What is my how do I want this to really end up in the end, and kind of recentering yourself on those things. And sometimes going back to why we started a project or how we started a project, that can sometimes help us to realign with what those original beliefs and visions were. So I would say that a lot of us will benefit from doing that as well. The other planet that's in Pisces is Mars. And Mars is interesting because Mars is known for wanting to fight, especially fight for the underdog. And we mentioned earlier how Pollux is also associated with fighting here. So I could see how, like, another scenario I could see is maybe you've been fighting something for some time. Maybe you have like a financial issue or a legal matter or something like that. That just seems like it's like you just keep banging your head on a wall trying to get it to change or go somewhere, and it doesn't seem like that might ever happen. This is a really beneficial transit if you find yourself in that position, because Mars wants to fight for the underdog. I can see a lot of people actually starting to get leeway on some of those things, like let's say you had a legal case that wasn't going anywhere. Well, maybe now is where you'll start to see things sort of turning in your favor or moving along in that case. For example, now Jupiter is still in shadow. It's in the shadow of its retrograde, and it will be for the next 4 months. So it's possible that you don't really see kind of the outward representations of this. Like, for example, maybe it starts to turn the tide in your favor, but you don't really see it fully close until like the summer or something like that, right? So we might not see like the full effects of the positivity of this transit for that time, but you will certainly be able to look back at this time and see why this time was beneficial and sort of like a turning point. Again, if you choose to use it as that. What's really important about astrology that I don't know that I say enough is that astrology is really a tool for you to understand how you can best utilize the energies to your favor. So Jupiter is a really good example of that, because Jupiter does expand things and he does bring a lot of opportunity. But it's really common that I see that people really overestimate what Jupiter can offer, because Jupiter does expand, but he does it really quickly and he puts us in a good mood about it. So it's possible that you get opportunities, but you get kind of lazy about it or think that it's fine. And then a lot of the goodness of that kind of slips through your fingers a little bit. So this is why I say it is important to think about the fact that these opportunities are here and actually to utilize them on purpose rather than hope that the universe just brings it to us. You can do that, and probably you will get some sort of opportunities or some sort of like movement and success, but you'll certainly lose out on a lot of the positives of this transit if you don't utilize it purposely. So Jupiter being in Cancer rules quite a few things. It rules real estate, for example, a sense of security. I could see all of those two things really benefiting from this transit as well. So if you've been, another scenario I could imagine is, let's say maybe you've been trying to buy a house or sell a house or something and it's been stuck on market and nothing really seems to be moving. This could be really good for you if that's the case, because of that association with real estate. Security could also be related to financial as well. So I can see like finance, maybe this is a turning point where your finances start to get better. Again, this could take time to take full form over the course of that 4 months, but a good example of something that you could utilize this for is, like, for example, maybe working on a project that is ultimately going to bring you passive revenue, right? Maybe you spend this time doing that, and then by the summer it's like hitting, and you start to see it like truly take off. So overall, I would say really avoid overspending and overdoing. Jupiter can really have us want to do that. And I honestly think on a world stage, we'll see some of these world events actually ramp up, unfortunately. But on a personal level, we can certainly use this to our advantage to really visualize and dream about what it is that we want to see change and what that looks like. Like, really feel it Pisces style. That means like imagine it, feel it, dream it. What does it taste like? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Like, all of those things are what you want to really think about. And maybe and another tip that I can think of there is like associate, let's say there's a certain song that you would associate with the energy of what you imagine it would be like to get where you're trying to go. Play that song all the time. Or maybe it's like, oh, I really want to buy this home. Maybe put that home as your background on your computer or something, right? Like, I'm just giving you examples here of like ways that you can kind of like lean into and feel this energy. The tricky part is going to be to not overdo and overspend. Like I said earlier, a lot of us are going to get into a positive mindset, which is great, but just realize that you want to utilize this to your advantage by actually stopping and strategizing and thinking of a good visionary way forward for yourself. So I hope this helps. Thanks for watching.